Firstly, I'd like to give an update on the condition of yesterday's victim. As has already been reported, he's a 29-year-old man who remains in intensive care in what is described as a stable condition following an operation. I don't, for obvious reasons, want to go into that too much, and equally I'm not prepared at this moment to release his details. You will be aware that this shooting was the third firearms-related incident yesterday. Shots were fired near to the First Church of God on North Street at 11:40. Shortly after that, police responded to an anonymous call of an attempted shooting in Court Street. That event in Court Street cannot be confirmed, and no witnesses at the moment have come forward. We do not believe that the shooting outside the First Church of God was targeting any members of the church or the attendees of that wedding. The car that received bullet impact was parked totally innocently and caught by a stray bullet. This was clearly a terrifying ordeal for the occupants who are receiving our support. However, this once again demonstrates the random nature and total disregard for life that these individuals have. This will be treated as an attempted murder, and those responsible, when caught, will face substantial prison sentences. These latest shootings, including the 3 during the hurricane weekend, have no obvious pattern. They are random, they are all committed by men on bikes. The victims may or may not be members of rival gangs. What is, however, absolutely clear is that these incidents are so brazen that the offenders have a total disdain for anyone other than themselves, and are prepared to destabilise not only their own community, but the whole of this country. It is the role of the police not only to prevent the crime, but to catch and convict those responsible. We already have the support of witnesses who are once again prepared to come forward and provide information in these instances. We continue to study CCTV to develop our forensic opportunities, which includes ballistic material left at scenes, and that recovered will be analysed appropriately. We are arresting, we are charging, and we are convicting people for these offences. However, we cannot do that alone, as you know. Our gang and violence reduction strategy relies on a multifaceted approach to targeting the gangs. This is both a complex social and law enforcement issue that has to have all the elements of this approach to work. We, together with the support of our partners in law enforcement, other agencies, and most importantly the engagement of the community, can tackle this violence. There has been progress, but I absolutely understand that some of our community are living in fear. We owe it to those people to protect them, and it is what we are striving to do. We have, for example, restructured the service so that now 85% of officers are dedicated to operational policing. The service's ability to effectively deal with these issues is also bolstered by 24/7 firearms response patrols and a dedicated gang targeting unit. In addition, in times of heightened tension such as now, we supplement those officers on the street and provide further assistance. Finally, before questions, once again appeal to anybody to come forward who has the slightest bit of information on not just these shootings, but shootings in general, to contact the police. It will be treated in the strictest of confidence, and once again we rely heavily on that information. That is the end of the prepared statement. I'm happy to take questions.
How do you respond to the anger that was demonstrated last night by the crowd, particularly one at 42nd?
Firstly, sir, it's understandable, and I can understand why that anger should be directed at officers. But what I can say is 2 things. There are rumours, and there is also speculation in the media today, that there are officers present at that scene that failed to react. This is absolutely not true. I've spoken to those officers personally, and what I can tell you is this, that they were in the area at the time of the shooting. This shooting, like many of the other shootings, took place extremely quickly by men on bikes who left the scene almost instantly The officers that were there responded immediately to render assistance to the individual that was injured, but also preserved the scene. But I do understand that the tension in St Monica's at that time was very high. I know that officers received a considerable amount of pressure and resentment when they attended. What I would ask for is that residents keep calm. Those individuals are there to help. They need to preserve that scene. You all know that without forensic opportunities that we cannot, or it hinders our ability to respond to this type of crime. And just the slightest bit of forensic evidence that is taken away because we are unable to preserve that scene can impact against our investigation. So officers were there for a reason. I believe they were there quickly, but they certainly did not ignore any pleas for help and certainly did not witness the shooting itself.
Why were there 2 unarmed female police officers in a known hotspot?
Well, as you know, the Bermuda Police Service is not armed per se. We have armed officers. The officers that are on patrol could be armed and unarmed. Those officers happen to be unarmed, but they were supported by armed officers who were at the scene very quickly. We have a considerable amount of armed officers now, more than ever before. For obvious reasons, I'm not going to go through the deployment criteria of those officers. Suffice to say that in times of increased tension like this, we will supplement them with further armed officers. It is my belief, and this could be your next question, that the service does not need to be armed per se, but it needs to have sufficient armed officers to be able to respond, and we have that.
This is an era where there have been 2 murders and several shooting incidents.
I appreciate that, and armed officers were available.
Any other questions?
Did those 2 officers act in keeping with proper protocol yesterday afternoon? Because you're saying that they acted to help the individual who was injured. People who were there at the scene, they're saying that the officers went in the opposite direction.
My understanding from the officers, and I have spoken to them, is that they responded and attempted to address those individuals that left the scene. The victim himself, my understanding, was taken to hospital by supporters, by relatives. But the officers attempted to catch the people responsible. And by no means did they do anything they shouldn't have done. They reacted to a spontaneous, dangerous incident in an absolutely right way.
Is there anything to suggest that these shootings, particularly in the 42nd area, may in fact be in retaliation for the murder of Troy Rollins?
Well, I don't dismiss anything. These shootings could well be tit-for-tat murders for a number of reasons. We know that people shoot each other, sadly, for all manner of things. It could be because of that murder. I'm not discounting that, but I'm not saying it is.
How confident are you in making an arrest in connection with this attempted murder as you took it?
But like all these investigations, it relies on a number of things coming together. And as I said, we rely on witness evidence. We rely on the community to give us information. Yesterday, a man was arrested for a firearms offence, not connected to this shooting, but certainly connected to weapons that we believe are in circulation. So in answer to your question, I'm confident we'll make an arrest. Making an arrest is one part of it. Getting conviction is clearly what we're all seeking. And those two elements need to come together through a whole range of complex things that make it happen. But I'm confident we'll make an arrest. I'm also confident if we make the arrest and we get the right forensic support and the right witnesses, we'll get a conviction.
Would you have liked to have seen those drivers, the police drivers, chase the bicycle instead of getting out of the car?
I think they made an attempt, or they made an assessment as to what they should do first. And as we all know, and I witness it every day of the week, people on cycles are very quick, they're very nimble, and they escape very quickly. Officers will at all times attempt to apprehend those offenders if they can. But the location of this offence and the way in which those individuals drove away from the scene made it almost impossible for the officers there to chase them.
Residents in the St. Monica's Mission area clearly had no confidence in the police ability. What are you going to do to bolster confidence in the neighborhood?
Well, I'm hoping that is not all residents, and I bow to your knowledge, but I'm hoping that is not all residents. What we saw yesterday was an outpouring of emotion directed against the police, and I can fully understand that. But equally, I support the officers that were there, and I believe they reacted in a calm and rational manner. I understand that the community of St Monica's is at this moment in great fear. What I would like to say to them personally is that we are there to support them, and we will do everything we can to catch the people responsible for committing these offences. But that does start with a preservation of the scene, and it does rely heavily on individuals coming and talking to us. And I know what you're saying, but as it stands now, witnesses have come forward from St Monica's. And they may not do so publicly, they may do so in their own way, but they are coming forward and they are telling us what happened and who did what. We need to turn that information into evidence, and we need to arrest these individuals and convict them. And there is one way that we will convince those residents that we mean what we say, and that is to arrest and convict these people. I know that.
Most of these assailants, or whatever you want to call them, the attackers, they're anywhere from 16 to 20. 20-year sentence in court. Doesn't mean much to them. How do we stop that?
Well, that's something for our partners in the legislature to look at. And sentencing for violent offences such as this is clearly up to the courts. We can only, as a police service, present what we have. And I think that is something you probably should address to the court services.
I have two questions. Why is there no CCTV in the area? And I'm a resident of St Monica's Mission. Why is there such low police presence? Since that shooting yesterday, there's been no police. I checked 5 times. Why is there such a low police presence in the area all the time?
Right, there should be a police presence there, and that is something that if that is the case, then I will address
Okay, it wasn't when I
immediately
came.
after this.
It wasn't 20 minutes ago.
I've had a meeting this morning with the police teams in that area, and I can assure you that will be addressed. And I'm disappointed to hear that, but I'll address that. CCTV, again, that is something that is growing. I mean, I've been on this island a short time, and already we've put CCTV cameras, not from my own personal work, but from others, in places. But St Monica's is certainly an area that we need to desperately consider CCTV. But it is something that certainly I would support, and I know that the majority of the police service would support. And I'd ask the community also if that is what they want, and to make that absolutely clear, because we also know that some communities don't want CCTV because they see it as Big Brother. But certainly from a crime prevention and reassurance perspective, CCTV works extremely well, and St Monica's is certainly an area that we need to look at with some urgency.
Okay. Yeah, running through all of this now is one common thread. Guns are not coming in as fast as we actually catching the people.
They're not.
Guns
Yes.
are not coming in as fast as we're catching the people.
Right. Is that a question?
It is, and is because I see that as a problem, as an ongoing problem. We're catching the gunners, we're catching the shooters, we're convicting them, but the guns are still out there because the guns are not turning up in court as evidence.
No, and you're right. I mean, I would like nothing more than to be able to recover guns every day and take every single gun off the streets. And it's a very good point, because we know that these weapons are being hidden. People are not necessarily carrying the weapons, although from some of the events that we've seen over the last few days, weapons are clearly being carried more openly than before. But these weapons are being hidden somewhere. People know where they are. And once again, I appeal again for anybody that may know where a weapon is hidden, or where a weapon is stored, that they let us know. Then that can be in total confidence, and we can recover that thing and take it off the street. This may be a mother, it may be a brother, a sister, or whatever, or somebody who has that gun, and they know it's in their house somewhere. I can give them a reassurance. If this is done, if this is reported to us in good faith, that we will deal with it in a sensitive way. We will not deal with it in an unsensitive way. So if somebody knows where a weapon is, once again I'd appeal for them to come to us and tell us where that is.
Have the police considered a gun bounty? I'm not suggesting you've got to come to court, but offering a significant gun bounty, $10,000, $15,000, $25,000, for information which leads to the recovery of a gun.
Well, Crime Stoppers clearly does that. It offers.
That's uneffective.
No, well, that's right, and that's probably a debate for another time. But it is a possibility, and it's a good suggestion. And the other thing that I've also tried in my old area is good amnesties where weapons are handed in. But of course that takes some organising, and we still need to look at the weapons forensically, even when they're handed in good faith. Had they been used in offences? So, but what you're saying is something that certainly we will consider.
Last question. What was that? Did you have a question? What was that? Okay. Last question.
Yeah. Ballistically, how many of these murders are actually tied to the same gun? I mean, there are no gunsmiths, so you can't change the rifling of a barrel here because nobody knows how to do that.
And only recently we are now in partnership with the ATF in the US to look at this issue. We can say that there are a number of guns that have been used more than once, and that certain areas have weapons that are used regularly. So you are right. In some ways that's a good thing that there aren't as many weapons out there as we think, but in other ways it's a bad thing that those weapons are being used time and time again and we can't recover them. But you're absolutely right, ballistically we can match, like a fingerprint, one weapon to another incident. And if somebody is caught with that weapon, they will be interviewed and they will be investigated for every offence that that weapon has committed. So they may be holding that gun without any thought why they're holding that gun, but that thing may be responsible for murder, attempt murder or whatever, and that individual will be spoken to about all those offences that their gun is related to. We're going back to my the comment made over there. I don't want to stop people handing weapons in. If, for example, and I'll re-emphasise this, a mother knows where a gun is, I would hate them to think that they cannot tell us because we're going to investigate her for those offences. That isn't the case. What I'm talking about is somebody holding that weapon in the street that we arrest. They will be investigated for every offence that that weapon is being linked to. But I would still, once again, appeal, if people know where these guns are, let's get them off the street.
Has any weapons of that nature been collected so far?
We recover weapons, we do recover weapons, but not as regularly as I'd like.
No, I mean with multiple.
Yes,
things.
yes. Ladies and gents, thank you very much.
Thank you.